What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the CotAcasT. My name is Brian Bermudez, and I'm the host of the CotAcasT Craft of the Air podcast. And you're listening to the podcast not just for aviation enthusiasts or professionals, but also those with a general interest in aviation. Join us on our journey as we explore the horizon of aviation together. You guys are... You're rocking with the best right now. You got a treat today. We get into a controversial topic of air travel. But here's the kicker. Without human pilots. Don't get all crazy. You got to hear me out first. You got to listen to this. There's some very interesting developments in this so-called debate of will we see pilotless air travel in the next decade soon, not even like 100 years from now, 200 years soon. We'll get into that. First things first, today's episode of the CotAcasT is brought to you by Craft of the Air. Why don't you stop memorizing outdated content, rereading textbooks, texting people without really understanding your aviation content? If you're looking to obtain your FAA airframe and power plant licenses, Craft of the Air offers personalized learning sessions remotely from the convenience of your house. Are you tired? I am. Are you tired of searching endlessly for unreliable data online? You're in the field of aviation and you need help accomplishing your next big project? Consulting by Craft of the Air is a second you when you need it. Anything aviation. Visit www.craftoftheair.com. Again, that's www.craftoftheair.com today and speak with a federally licensed professional. Craft of the Air. Our craft is of the air. So now let me paint this picture for you. All right, let me set the mood right. All right, we're getting on the plane. We're walking through the jet bridge. We got our bags packed. We're getting ready to go on our trip. We walk into the plane, right? Where the flight attendants meet and greet us, and we look to our left, and what we're so accustomed to seeing. What are we so accustomed to seeing? The captain and the first officer going through their pre-flight checks, getting the aircraft ready for departure. And I asked the question, what if we were to walk into that aircraft and there were no humans there, but just computers? And I throw it out there. Pilotless air travel. Is it a reality? I know that initially it may sound just so far-fetched, but you'd be just so surprised at some of the technology in development and currently in use and being tested. And it's interesting, and we bring it up with, again, safety and human factors coming to the forefront of news. Just 2 days ago, two aircrafts nearly collided at Hollywood Burbank Airport, and yet another near miss. And just today, in response, the FAA issued a safety alert after a series of near miss incidents. There's actually been six near miss incidents, and that's in the United States since January. Now, with everything going on, we look at it and the possibility. A really good article by Forbes, and it titled "No Pilot, No Problem. Here's how soon self-flying planes coming to you." There's also a couple of really interesting reads online when you dive into the topic. Now, in January, Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun revealed an open secret in the world of aviation. I quote him as saying, "I think the future of autonomy is real for civil." End quote. He told Bloomberg TV before quickly offering some qualifiers. I quote him as saying, "It's going to take some time. Everyone's got to build confidence. We need a certification process that we all have faith and believe in." End quote. Now, Mark Cousin, which is the senior vice president of engineering at Airbus, was quoted as saying, "We're on the cusp of a revolution in air transportation, the biggest since the jet age. Automation will allow us to build aircraft that are safer, lighter, and more fuel efficient, and that can fly in conditions that would be impossible for human pilots." End quote. It should be noted that in December of last year, Airbus actually performed its first fully automatic version base takeoff, and that was using Airbus A350-1000. Now, and they called it a milestone for Airbus. Now, it's interesting. Now the potential advantages of a pilotless airplane, they're numerous. Now, one of the main advantages, just thinking right here, is human factors, safety. Pilot error is significantly the cause of airplane accidents. Now, by eliminating that human factor, the risk of accidents due to pilot error could be significantly reduced. And now I'm not just pointing the blame at just pilots and pilot human error. It could be mechanical error, but we're eliminating that risk. It's significantly reduced. Now, furthermore, pilotless airplane, it could potentially fly at higher altitudes and speeds. Now, I'm just saying that could result in shorter flight times and reduce fuel consumption. And that's definitely going to lead to the airlines saving a lot of money. And just to throw in the last bit, I mean, I just got to say, if potential advantage, I mean, the absence of pilots is you're going to lead to increased cabin space for passengers or cargos. I gotta be really real. Mike Sinnott, the vice president of product development at Boeing, was quoted as saying, "Pilotless planes are the future of aviation. They're safer, more efficient, and more environmental friendly than traditional manned aircraft. As technology continues to develop, we will see more and more pilotless planes taking to the sky." End quote. And that was Mike Sinnott. Now, that's the vice president of product development at Boeing. Now, it's also worth noting, it's certainly worth noting that about 6 years ago, and this was 6 years ago, pre-pandemic, pre-inflation, a report from a Swiss bank, UBS, heard of them? UBS estimated that autonomous airplanes could save air transportation industry more than $35 billion each year. Now let's backtrack here. Let me backtrack a little bit. The benefits of pilotless airplanes, yeah, they're somewhat significant. There's definitely a lot of challenges that have to be addressed. Now, one of the primary challenges is development of reliable autonomous systems. And that technology required for pilotless airplanes is definitely still in development. And significant investments and research are going to be necessary. Now, additionally, there's definitely concerns about the ability of an autonomous system to react to unexpected events. And the first thing that comes to mind is adverse weather conditions. What about the 1 in a million chance that we have this just fluke of a weather condition and the software just does not have any idea how to process that information? I mean, it's a possibility. And with that being said, what if there's a technical malfunction and that software is unable to identify it correctly or resolve the issue correctly, or it affects another system? Now, big thing, and one of the first things that a lot of my students have mentioned to me, but with an autonomous system, we have potential vulnerabilities. And now the issue of cybersecurity, it definitely must be addressed to prevent unauthorized access or hacking or terrorist attack of an autonomous system. And not to mention, guys, we have autonomous systems. We speak about just the challenge of the regulatory framework and getting this approved, FAA, EASA, so on and so forth. And the aviation industry is heavily regulated. And the second that we have an absence of a pilot, it's definitely going to raise some concerns about safety, about security. You got to make sure the regulations amend and accommodate to the newer technology that's coming out as well. And that's to ensure the safety and the passengers and the crew. Now, the public's perception of a pilotless airplane is another significant issue I see. Right now, it's an issue right now. Many people are very uneasy about the idea of flying with a pilot. Now, I spoke to a couple of people before recording this CotAcasT, and one of the first things is just the reaction. Like, there's just no way. I say, yeah, I'm making this episode on pilotless airplanes. At first reaction, just no way I'd get on that plane, man. There's just no way. Now, when asking the public, if the difference in numbers is due only to a couple of years, it's unclear. Maybe, I don't know, maybe people will feel differently about it 5 years in the future as opposed to right now. Particularly with everything safety, all the safety incidents going on, I'm not sure about the public's perception with a pilotless airplane. Now, in June 2019, a study conducted by a U.S. software firm showed that nearly 70% of passengers expected to travel in autonomous aircraft in their lifetime. So about 70%, they believe it's going to happen somehow. Now, of that, only 58% were willing to travel on one within the next decade. That just goes to show the trust is not there just yet. Now, and it's interesting, the greatest concerns were technology failure. Now, and in 2017, there was also another survey, and a majority of people were also, again, unwilling to fly in a plane without a pilot. And get this, in that survey, they offered it as the tickets were cheaper without the pilot. And people said they were still not willing to get on that plane. People are willing to pay more money to get on a plane with pilots. Now, it's interesting. Ian Gray, the director of aerospace at Cranfield University, is quoted as saying the benefits of pilotless aircrafts are clear. They operate in dangerous or more difficult conditions They can fly for longer periods of time without the need of rest, and they can operate more efficiently than traditional manned aircraft. However, we need to ensure that the technology is safe and reliable, and that the public is comfortable with the idea of flying in a plane without a human pilot, end quote. And that was Ian Gray, the director of aerospace at Cranfield University. Now, there's a couple of examples, some examples of autonomous planes currently in service. There's a MQ-9, and MQ-9 is call it a Reaper drone, and it's a high altitude, medium to high altitude, long endurance, uncrewed aerial vehicle. Now, that's primarily used by the U.S. military for reconnaissance and strike missions, and it's actually been in service since 2007. Now, something very promising. UPS Flight Forward, or UPS Flight Forward is actually a subsidiary of UPS, and they operate a fleet of autonomous cargo plane. Now, in 2019, UPS received approval from the Federal Aviation Administration to conduct drone airline, and they began delivering medical supplies and other cargo to hospitals and clinics. Now, very interesting, the company has been using a variety of autonomous aircraft, including the Matternet M2 drone and the Wingcopter 198, which can take off and land vertically, and they can fly for up to 100 miles on single charges. Now, it's interesting, and also worth noting, I mean, it's great. West Coast company Nautilus. Now, Nautilus designs autonomous aircraft, and they just inked a $134 million deal, $134 million with Ameriflight. And Ameriflight is a freight airline company, and they provide planes to FedEx, UPS, and DHL. Now, the company plans to deliver 20 Nautilus Kona feeder planes as part of its plan to create an air cargo network of the future. Now, there's development and testing going on. I mean, there's still hope. I'm not trying to push the idea with pilots. I love the pilots. I love they're one of the smartest people that you can ever work alongside. And the training and the intelligence that they demonstrate on a daily basis is incredible. But there's development and testing being with that being said. I mean, look, it's happening around us. Automation, it's happening whether we like it or not. And if it's the right tune for the airlines to save a buck, then it's a possibility. And should we prepare ourselves for it? Now, there's the question always of, so what does that mean? Do we have to just design and build all new airplane, or can we use existing planes and just put computers in these existing planes so they can fly on their own? And it's interesting, there's a company, X-Wing, a Northern California-based startup, and a Northern California startup, and now they have the introduction of autonomous aircraft into the civil aviation mix. It's going to have to begin with cargo. It would have to begin with cargo. And I foresee it being led by companies like X-Wing. CEO Mark Petit of X-Wing, quote him as saying, "We took an existing Cessna airframe, which is mostly used widely for express cargo airframes, and we've been modifying the vehicle to convert it to a remotely supervised vehicle. We think the cargo market is the best first place to deploy this, and we've been very deliberate," end quote. And if autonomous systems and programs are going to begin to be implemented widespread, it would have to begin with cargo and with companies like X-Wing. Now, it's interesting. Now, existing systems. Brian Flynn. Now, he's the vice president of operations at Boeing. He was quoted as saying the technology is already available for us to build pilotless planes, but the regulatory framework needs to catch up. We need to ensure that the technology is safe, secure, and reliable, and that it can operate in all kinds of weather conditions and situations, end quote. And that was Brian Flynn, a vice president of operations at Boeing. Now, it's worth noting, it's certainly worth noting that most modern aircraft have systems we call Cat 3. And while it's not necessarily a full autonomous system that's going to fly the aircraft from gate to gate, it's definitely the groundwork. Now, a Cat 3 auto-land system, they're essentially advanced autopilot systems, and they're using aviations to assist pilots in landing the aircraft, technically during low visibility conditions, fog, heavy rain. Now, the Cat 3, the way it works, it basically uses a combination of ground-based instruments and onboard sensors. It basically guides the aircraft down to the runway, and it lands it automatically. This technology is already in place. Now, it's worth noting that in this Cat 3 auto land system, the aircraft, it has to be capable of being Cat 3 auto land, and it must have necessary equipment and systems installed. And in addition to that, not all airports will have Cat 3 auto land capabilities. An airport, it has to have the necessary infrastructure, such as ground-based instruments to support Cat 3 auto land operations. So it's the groundwork is there, where we have the technology, where an aircraft is capable of automatically landing itself, and this technology is installed on most modern aircraft. Now, let's think about it in a whole. Let's really get real here. Let's really get real. Now, in closing this, traditional piloted aircraft with a pilot, it's going to offer the advantages of experience and expertise because we have a human in there. Now, we're definitely going to have flexibility to changes as the aircraft is encountering different changes throughout the flight. We're going to have human judgment, and we're certainly going to have passenger comfort with having a pilot in that aircraft. Now, it's while this has its pros, when we speak about an autonomous computer-operated aircraft, we're also going to have some pretty advantages: increased safety, consistent performance, cost savings, increased capacity. I mean, if we have a pilotless aircraft and we have an autonomous system, it doesn't need to rest. The aircraft could just continue to fly and fly and fly. The capacity is endless. Now, I'd say both configurations have their drawbacks, respectively, of course. Piloted aircrafts, we're always going to have human factors, fatigue, training, staffing costs, and of course, limited capacity. We're human. We need to rest. But a computer-operated aircraft is certainly going to be subjected to limited decision-making. We're going to be having to update this software constantly. A computer operated aircraft is also going to have a reliance on that technology. And the passenger comfort, it's just something that just at the present time, I'm just not sure. I'm just not so sure. And regulatory challenges are definitely something that's going to be an uphill battle with getting this implemented widespread. Well, overall, while pilotless aircrafts are technically possible, there's so many challenges that must be addressed before they become a widespread reality. The introduction of autonomous aircraft into the civil aviation mix is going to have to begin with small cargo planes. Now, that's led by companies like X-Wing. Now, it's likely that we'll see increasing levels of automation in aircraft operations, in the coming years. But the complete removal of pilots from a cockpit, that may be still some time away, and possibly many years away from earning the public's trust. I'd say, in my opinion, I certainly wouldn't get on an aircraft without a pilot or a flight crew. But I'm just saying. But I ask the listener, what do you think? Would you get on an airplane that is, we'll go back to that survey, a cheaper ticket, $200 cheaper, but no humans, no captain, no first officer? I throw it out there. Well, with that, guys, that about wraps it up for this episode of the CotAcasT. If you have not done so already, please take this opportunity to check out the Craft of the Air website at www.craftoftheair.com. Again, that's www.craftoftheair.com, and get your free initial consultation today. Craft of the Air, our craft is of the air. Thanks for listening to today's episode, guys. Please be sure to follow the Craft of the Air Instagram. We got it, Craft of the Air Twitter now, and the CotAcasT has its very own YouTube channel. So you can subscribe for the latest CotAcasT episode updates, and please leave us a review on Spotify. The CotAcasT is also available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and is coming to Prime. So again, thanks for listening, guys. Be sure to tune in for next updates and stay safe out there. We'll be seeing you soon.